Okay, great. Okay, congratulations everyone for reaching to the Novice finals. My name is Stephen. I'll be chairing this round with several panelists if they'd like to introduce themselves. Starting, yeah, just go ahead.
Hi
Hello
myself,
everyone, my name is Carl. I shall be a panelist for the round. Looking forward to a great debate.
Hello everyone, my name is Mahi and I will be paneling. Congratulations for reaching to Novice finals.
Hi, I'm Chloe. I will also be paneling. Good luck.
hello myself Aditya. I will also be handling the Novice finals. All the best for the round. Thank you.
Great. I think that's everyone. So, uh, just going to do a little bit of housekeeping. Please time yourself. I presume, can we get a panelist to put timestamps into chat? Please indicate your POI preferences before you start speaking. You're allowed to indicate your pronoun preferences, and we hope people respect those. And if someone doesn't indicate their pronouns, please just use they. The panel as a whole ought to be in order. It's all great. So without further ado, I invite the Prime Minister to start the opening government case. You're here.
Hello, good afternoon, everyone. Well, good morning, everyone. I hope everyone's doing amazing. All protocols observed. I will begin my speech in the next 5 seconds as I just put my papers together. And I will start by start by framing this debate. Now, this, this the motion of this debate states this House, as a middle class individual living in a moral credit society, will sell their moral credits, right? As a moral society being meritocratic, we award good behavior. It also acts as a disincentive for people to engage, as you are more liable to get away with acts of petty theft, etc., and because of that, you are more of a harm to them. As a moral person will sell their credits to the poor because living in a society, any society actually, the poor has more incentive to do immoral acts as they lack the wherewithal to do moral accredited acts because it is more difficult for them to do so. By society, we mean a society where individuals gain social, professional, and economical rewards for public display, the correct moral position and face penalty for deviating from them, right? The middle class refers to individuals whose social mobility and economic stability depend heavily on institutions such as universities, corporations, professional networks to sell their morals compromise sincerely held beliefs when doing so improves social standing, career prospects, and or personal security. I will be taking PO Okay, it's become a form of so many social and online networks. This means that when moral conformity is rewarded, the middle class faces a clear choice: maintaining personal integrity or protect their future. most will rationally choose the latter, correct? And I'll go ahead and take an POI if there's none. I'll keep going. Okay, thank you. I lead into my next substantive, which is my claim. How morals are sold in practice, right? Selling morals really look dramatic. It happens, right? That is a gross mischaracterization of selling morals. Public agreement without private belief. Individuals express views they do not fully hold to avoid professional or social harm. So people will agree with something just because they do not want to harm their professional standpoint, or and not principles, solely because people are seeing. Over time, these behaviors blur the lines between genuine belief and strategic performance, right? Which this state is um, where this matters. When morality becomes transactional, honest debate disappears, right? Bad ideas persist unchallenged. Trust is moral discourse. Trust is morally trust is eroded. Moral progress becomes shallow and unstable. As a society obsessed with moral signaling, paradoxical procedures weakens weaker moral outcomes becomes principles are guided by incentives rather than truths. Uh, whereas the opposition will most likely come and talk about how sincere acts are that more consensual reflects genuine progress, and we will respond to this as the motion does not deny more sincerity. It argues that structural incentive distorts behaviors, especially for those most dependent on reputation. If even well-intentioned people compromise when the cost distance is too high, which is also what I stated in the beginning, where when the people who are poor, who lack the wherewithal, they will inevitably do acts because they do not have the do acts that are morally unjust because they do not have the wherewithal to do acts that are. And I believe that right here, my deputy will come and finish this debate. For that reason, we proudly propose this motion. Hear, hear.
Thank you, PM. Ella. Leader of Opposition.
Am I audible?
Yeah.
Okay. I'll start my speech in 3, 2, 1. Today, I stand firmly against the motion that suggests a middle-class individual should sell their moral credits. While the proposition paints moral credit as a form of currency that can improve social standing, we must critically analyze the social, ethical, and practical consequences of selling these credits. Firstly, let me address the Prime Minister points that moral credits are reward for good behavior and that they provide incentive for the poor to perform moral acts. While at first glance this may seem fair, but we must ask, does selling these credits actually uphold morality or does it turn ethics into a market transaction? Imagine a middle-class individual who has spent months donating to charities, volunteering, and helping the community. Under the proposition's idea, uh, they could now sell these credits to someone who might use them to commit morally questionably acts. Think about it. Your good deeds, your time, your effort, your care could be literally bought by someone to just justify wrongdoing. It's like stealing or even more serious crimes. Suddenly, morality is no longer about what is right. It's about how much money or credits you can trade. This is not an incentive. It's a corruption of ethics. Also, the Prime Minister also argued that selling moral credits improves social standing and that our life depends on social approval. But here's are the problem. We tell you if everyone start buying moral credits, social approval will become meaningless. If I can simply buy my way to being morally upright, then what is the point of earning moral credits through real actions? Social respect and recognition are built on trust, honesty, and authentic behavior. When we allow these credits to be sold, it creates a society where appearance matter more than a true character. A middle class person may feel pressure to sell credit um just to compete with the wealthy who can buy moral status. This is not a fair system. It deepens inequality rather than encouraging genuine moral behavior. Therefore, let's think practically for a moment. The proposition suggests moral credits provide incentive for the poor to do good, but selling moral credit shifts power toward those who already have money. Middle class individuals might feel forced to sell their credits to survive financially. Meanwhile, the richest people can buy moral immunity and act without accountability. So instead of motivating morality, this system would create a moral hierarchy where wealth decide ethics. This what I mean by this the poor are still left with no real power. The middle class are pressured, and the rich get to manipulate the system. Clearly, the supposed incentive does not benefit society equally. Now let's consider sorry. Also, there is a dangerous comparison here. Imagine a world where a rich person buys more credits and commits uh, theft or fraud without consequences. Now compare it to the middle class individual who earn moral credits through genuine effort. The society we live in would increasingly value wealth over virtue. This isn't just unfair, it's undermined the very idea of justice and morality. Selling moral credits turns ethical behavior into privilege for the rich while punishing those who act morally without selling out. For example, a middle class teacher spends weekends tutoring underprivileged children, earning moral credits. A wealthy person is instead of volunteering, they buy these credits and use them to cheat in business deals or breaks laws. So who benefits? The teacher's hard words become a commodity, while the wealthy person get a free pass, and society loses faith in moral justice. So does anyone really think this is a fair or sustainable system? And
POI?
yes, PI acceptance.
Okay, given that you say like if I have the moral credits, like a richer person will just break out of prison with it. Isn't it like allowing the middle class to hold on to those moral credits in and of itself a corrupting force as well? Because now they have the incentive to do evil as well. I mean, that's what the moral credits is there for, to incentivize them, to give them the right to do evil.
I mean, just because um something is allowed doesn't mean that it's right. But they can. I mean, they can survive without selling their ethics. There are other ways to earn jobs, sites hustle, and community support. I think selling more credit sacrifice integrity uh for long term, which is hurt society. Now moving on to I'll continue my speech. Uh, Also, allowing middle class individuals to sell more credits may seem like a personal choice, but it sets a dangerous precedent. It says that morality has price tag. It encourage it's also can encourage exploitation of the good-hearted. It risks creating a culture of opportunism where doing right is only valuable if you can sell it. So I argue that this is exactly what we must prevent. In conclusion, the proposition claims that selling more credit rewards good behavior, incentives the poor, and improve social standing are fundamentally flawed. But selling more credit corrects inequality and diminishes this social value of doing good. while middle class individuals should not sell their moral credits, because morality is not just a community, but it is the foundation of a fair and just society. Therefore, we on the opposition side urge that the House reject this motion. We should protect morality from the market, and we should preserve social trust and fairness. We should also ensure that the good behavior remains genuine and respected, not something that we can not something that people can be bought and sold. I'm proud to propose. Thank you.
Thank you, LO, DPM.
Right. Ready for me to start? Resetting. Oh boy. It's kind of a confused debate. Let's see what I can do. All right, ready?
Yeah.
Set, go. Okay, so you're living in a moral credit society. This is a presuppositions, right? First thing first, we're going to presuppose, as was already implied by my prime minister, that you're living in a moral society. The fact that you can have moral credits means there's some means of quantifying morality. And we're, of course, presuming for the sake of this motion that, of course, this morals that being quantified is a form of utilitarian morality. That is, say what's good for the best of all. That to say each individual action insofar is good for the whole of a society. That's what's being quantified and abstracted to be put into these currencies and so on. And then you're giving like a degree of like, I don't know, I'm presuming, of course, that if you can do the system and it actually running, then it's relatively accurate. So we're going to presume that, of course, the people who are middle class, at least middle class, and middle class, upper middle class, as a rule of thumb, like a wealthy, general wealthy group of people, as a rule of thumb, their actions are generally good. It's generally nice, and as a result, generally maximizes the whole. And insofar as so far as they're the group that are being selected for in a moral credit society, that also makes a moral society. That's also a moral society. They don't actually have a use for those credits. They already have the affluence that they can buy the things they want and move upward in society. And insofar as they're living in a moral society that can support a moral credit system, then it's presupposed that like good actions are what's being rewarded. And insofar as those are the good actions being rewarded, they should already have all the tools and abilities and skills they need to move forward. They don't need to have outs and cheats. This is what a moral credits would give them. So therefore, that's the first argument for why I don't think they particularly need them. The reason why you'd give them away is a proof of your actual morality. I don't have a use for these. So like, what else can I do with it? It would make sense that you give it to the poor and only the poor. We're going against the opposition. Is that it's only given to the poorest society because they're the ones who lack capital. It's not a result of the morals. Accepted?
I think this system will look like supply and demand. Only the people with money will be able to buy these moral credits, which means only the elite and the richest will be able to buy these moral credits and continue do more immorality towards the world.
Okay,
Do
sorry,
engage.
pause. Accepting with that, no, that's not true. You're living in a moral credit system. As mentioned before, the moral credits are determined based on utilitarian qualification. As such, we're presuming that this society has restructured the like supply and demand, like the wealthy, to be in the hands of those who actually like maximize social welfare. It's presupposed that these people, as a rule of thumb, don't have incentive to engage in immoral acts. They don't have a use for it because they already have money. They're not like economic presupposed to doing crime. And the poor who are, however, have a reason to have it. It's presupposed that they would just legit just not need it. They wouldn't be buying it up because like, why bother? They actually are good people because society incentivizes good behavior. Moving on to that point now, we're engaging with open.
Right.
So, hold a second, coming in a minute. Selling credit upholds integrity as they are doing charity. It's not much use to them. As after all, like I'm saying, if they held on to it, the social credit now actually acts as an incentive for them to do harm. Why? Because like it's an option. It's like saying you want to lose weight, but you have a tub of ice cream in the fridge. The actual way to get rid of it is just remove the incentive. Also, I would add on to that the middle class redistributing, and in general, as wealthy in general, just redistributing the social credits that they've earned to like the most vulnerable so they can have more economic mobility would actually be a proof of the system working. Because after all, morality can't actually be forced. The true sign that you're actually a good person is that you don't do it for a reward. Of course, now we understand in an actual sense that doesn't actually exist. If you do something for a good feeling, that in of itself is a reward. As mentioned by my government, the Prime Minister, when the incentive that comes from them selling their credit is that it reaffirms the fact that they are good people. So against the few like guilty, evil people that are actually rich, I feel the urge to mention, of course, that they are socially incentivized. The pros outweigh the cons of them giving away their credits to the poor are refraining from using it. As after all, if they have a tendency to use them, after all, this system based on emotion, the moral credits that you have are viewable. If you are a truly moral person, why would you have it? It's like walking into a daycare with a gun on your waist. Why do you have it on you? There's no there's no reason for it to be there, or in the fact that you plan to use it. So having it actually acts against their interest by one signaling to everyone that, hey, I'm a threat to you, and two, this would of course have economic damage to their reputation, where people just now refuse to associate with them after all. Think about things like, I don't know, for example, if you're in like a more affluent society, as a rule of thumb, you participate in something like, I don't know, in particular America, you might participate in like private clubs or like being a part of like a neighborhood watch or something. There are certain things that you refrain from doing. Like you say, for example, in like World War I, it's presupposed that all men would willingly sign up for the job, and if they didn't, like your wives or women would just go around and give you like a white flag or so. It became a moral imperative for them to actually go to war, men to go to war, and not doing that is just a social guffaw. So having social credits in themselves is just a social guffaw if you're wealthy, because why do you have it? You can have everything you want without cheating or lying, and the fact that you have it means that you might be willing to. So it's better to give it to the poor, because they actually do have a reason, being that they lack material beings and they need to do stuff to get wealth. I'll take a PI now.
Understand that the society is incentivized by money and not moral credits. Just because there's moral credits doesn't mean that the rich people suddenly will want to make more moral credits, as opposed to making more, I don't know, power plants, factories to actually make money to buy houses, luxury cars, or whatsoever. Please engage.
Sorry. No, not exactly true. The fact of the moral credit system, it means if you're rewarding people for engaging in good behavior, it might be for a while that they're going to engage in crime for a while, but inevitably speaking, those people are going to have children, and those children are going to have children. And the system that they've outlined, people doing good action for the sake of maximizing the welfare, social welfare, inevitably speaking, the incentive structure is just going to be like having them. It's kind of like having good grades in school. Like after a while, that just becomes an incentive. I don't care about the money. The person isn't doing it to get like a proper dream job or something. After a while, good grades just become a thing in itself. So that's the arguments for it. Poor force moral credits does. Furthermore, we mentioned the fact the moral credits are better in the hands of the poor because they can do less harm with it. Insofar, yeah. So, yeah, that's what I'm saying. If you're only giving to the poor can actually do much harm with the wealth, because like they don't really have that much reach. The most they can do is really break into your house, and as a rule of thumb, that's what they do. Because as a rule of thumb, you don't really gain much wealth. There's no real way to monetize killing someone per se. Um, well, I mean, there might be a way to cut, but insofar as the moral credit system is actually functional, I believe as a rule of thumb, it will be allocated in a way that it won't break the system. So it won't be a situation that you're going to kill anyone with impunity. Yeah, so it'll be the harms will generally outweigh the good. The good will generally outweigh the harm. I think that's my time. 7 minutes, right? It was 7 minutes.
Yeah. Thank you, DPM, DLO.
Am I audible?
Loud and clear.
Okay. I'll be starting my speech in 3, 2, and 1. Panel, as the deputy leader of opposition, my role today is to reinforce the opposition case and extend the arguments and show why selling moral credits is morally, socially, and personally disastrous. I'll speak in 3 parts, which is first, ethical and personal harms of selling moral credits, 2, systematic and societal consequences, and 3, why middle class individuals are uniquely disadvantaged. First, the ethical and personal harms. The first one is morality becomes transactional. Opening government claims selling credits is rational and beneficial. We respond to it as morality is no longer about right and wrong, but profit. And the example is a middle class person donates to charity and they will earn moral credits and they sells them. And the result of this is basically a rich person buys these credits and commits morally reprehensible acts like theft or fraud without punishment. And the impact of it is basically the middle class person's good action now protects bad behavior and morality becomes a loophole and not a value. And the second one is forced morality for survival. PM claims poor people will earn credits to sell. The response for it is basically these credits coerce morality, not genuine ethical behavior. Poor and middle class people act not because it's right, but because they are forced to survive socially or financially. And the impact of it is morality loses its instincts meaning. The third one is cognitive and emotional harm. Selling credits forces middle class individuals into moral compromise. They experience guilt, stress, and cognitive dissonance. They know their goodness is being exploited. Morality becomes performative, and the public approval matters more than integrity. The second one is systematic and societal consequences. Morality becomes a market. Good deeds are traded like stocks. Morality is purchasable and unequal and exploitable. Example, billionaire. Yes, PI accepted.
Okay, two things. You can't exactly force me to sell it to the rich. I'm saying I, as a middle class person, would be selling it to the poor. That's firstly. Secondly, you can't say you're being coerced. They're doing it voluntarily. It's truly like they just don't have a use for it because, like, why would they have a use for having social credits? The fact that me having the social credits means that I must have a use to use them in the future. Why would I associate with someone I know is willing and able to commit crimes against me?
Okay, not everyone are giving it or buying it willingly. That's the thing. And continuing with my from my speech. Example, billionaire buys moral credits and commits morally questionable acts without repercussion, and while middle class donors carry the burden. The impact from it, basically public trust in morality collapses, social approval loses meaning. The second one is social inequality worsens. Middle class individuals are squeezed, not wealthy enough to buy immunity, not poor enough to gain societal sympathy. And rich people exploit the system. Poor people are sidelined. Middle class bears the cost. The real life analogy is medieval indulgence in Europe allowed the wealthy to buy forgiveness while peasants suffered. Society become corrupt and unequal, and destabilization of social norms will happen as well. Moral credits are supposed to incentivize ethical behavior. Selling them destroys social trust and encourages manipulation and erodes cohesion. For example, people stop trusting moral scores. Ethical behavior becomes performative and rather than sincere. The third one is why middle class individuals are uniquely vulnerable. First, pressure to sell for survival. Middle class individuals face constant social and financial pressure. First, pay bills. Second one, maintain social standing and compete with elites. Exploitation of goodness. They are the moral suppliers in the system, performing the good acts while rich buyers reap the rewards and commit bad acts. The long-term harm to integrity is once you sell more credits, your moral authority is undermined and social trust is lost and ethical growth is stunted. An impact of this is the middle class loses both moral and social capital. Responding to the opening government points, selling improves social standing is basically social standing becomes meaningless because a millionaire can buy a high moral score while a middle class nurse is penalized for selling hers. Trust in morality collapses. And another one is we live in a moral credit system, so selling is rational. Legal allowance does not equal ethical justification. Like morality should not protect society, should protect society, not trap in it, and transactional ethics. So our worst case scenario is manageable, which is individuals act morally without selling and life continues. And the government's worst case scenario is claustrophobic, which is morality collapses, social trust disappears, and the middle class is exploited. So morality should be sincere, personal, and also meaningful. Selling moral credits destroys all three principles, like good people are exploited, bad actors are protected, and society stop trusting moral actions. So in conclusion, panel, selling more credits corrupt ethics, increases inequality, and destroys social trust. Middle class individuals are most vulnerable, forced to sell their moral integrity for survival and social relevance. And morality should never have a price tag. Therefore, as a middle class individuals, we must not sell our moral credits. Thank you.
Thank you, Dillo. member of government.
I just need 30 seconds to gather my thoughts and then I'll be beginning. Hello, I'm Venya Bajaj. I'll be playing the role of member of government. I'll be taking the POIs only after the fifth minute marker. Please do not vocalize your POIs before that. I will be beginning on the self count of 3, 2, 1. Panelists understand that all the houses here have been missing a crucial point where credits are bought in exchange for morally right action. They are assuming that they will get to buy it for no reason at all. This is not true. Also, they talk about how there will be no societal or legal consequences if a person acts in a morally questionable way. But they also need to realize that there will be moral and economic consequences since the economic status or condition that a person reaches at due to the moral credits is lost, and these conditions do guide a person's behavior to a very large extent. Moral credits are earned through the hard work and positive conduct of the people. Like anything else that is hard earned, people will be conscious about how to spend their moral credits, since their status quo is defined by the money, and it is not simply wasted right now. Since the status something like moral credits, which again they have to work hard to earn, will only lead to pro-societal behavior and make people more morally aware. There was a POI raised about how moral credits are not money, but they are both hard earned, and so people will be very conscious about spending it, and they will be not irrational in the way they go about it. People will also have an incentive to work better and in a morally right way if they have the moral credits, which will also lead to more societal engagement and pro-social activity. A real-time scoreboard will provide the people with a sense of competition because they will see that yeah, a person has a higher moral credit than me, so I need to work hard and I need to act in a morally right way, and that I cannot just keep on being a morally incorrect person. They will try to earn more moral credits, and this will only lead to an increase in the
What is
morality in
the
society.
POI?
Also, not now. Also negating morally questionable behavior is impossible. Like even in the status quo, it exists. But the moral credits will be a regulatory mechanism. It will ensure proper regulation. It will expose morally questionable behavior, and it will limit it because people will themselves have to spend their credits to act in a certain way that is not acceptable. The wealthy classes already act in a morally questionable way, but the moral credit system will only increase transparency, and it will put both the middle and wealthy class at the same pedestal, so that they are charged with their moral credits before they act in a morally questionable way. There is an increased harm visibility, and the immoral behavior is sort of moral question behavior is sort of legalized, but it is also punishable. These are no longer hidden in the society, and these are punished by the means of loss of credits, and everyone becomes aware of who acts in a morally questionable way. Also, there is selling moral credits does not dilute morality because credits are allocated only on the basis of moral conduct. That is, morality is more validated. People will have more incentive to work or conduct themselves in a morally acceptable way. The fact that someone has the capacity to sell moral credits means that the person engages in morally acceptable ways, and that is why they can now sell it. Morally questionable activities are wide ranging. Even the smallest lie is a questionable behavior. So, morality is in no way diluted. Additionally, people already use their previous actions as a justification for the questionable ways. The credit system ensures that this ingrained practice in people is formalized to be able to hold people more accountable and strengthening the regulation structure in the right direction. Look at the paradigms of ours and that of the opposition. In our paradigm, there is an increased credibility and more thought in the way that people act. They're self-conscious and they introspect before they act in any way. There's a new factor that they need to consider the moral credits before acting in a morally questionable way, this might even lead to an increase of morality in the society. But in their paradigm, since there is no way to regulate this moral behavior except the legal systems, people will not actually put in active thought to determine whether they are acting in the right or wrong way. Also, people were not the reward, and that we need an incentive, but we do not need an incentive. They themselves are confused. And when they talk about working only for the good feeling and not for the reward system, they defeat the whole purpose of the moral credit system that we are pushing for and giving a utopian idea where people will just act in a good way because, yeah, they want a good feeling. They want to be good for everyone. The opposition talks about their best case scenario where people will act in a morally good way and they won't face any losses. But this is to work more, there will be nothing that will be driving the people. Middle class people will continue to be exploited by the wealthy, high class people, and they will get no protection that the poor classes already do. So they will be in a more precarious situation if there is no moral credit system. The right and wrong and and there is a profit factor panel. We need to understand that profit has all.
Hi, sorry, is it my turn?
Has the speaker disconnected, or was that?
Yeah, I'm sorry, my teammate, she had a Wi-Fi problem. She's reconnecting. Just give her a minute, please.
Okay, I was okay. Yeah, give her a minute. I thought that was my Wi-Fi.
Okay, apparently, Venya is mistakenly in the main hall currently.
Okay,
No, actually, she had a network issue, but she's rejoining right now.
Oh, no worries, no worries. I think they are in the main hall right now. I got a text from the judge there.
Yeah,
yeah, I
probably
presume she
because
just
she
joined
joined
straight into
from
the
there.
main hall. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, we'll give her a minute. Okay, great. She seems to join back.
Excuse me.
Yeah, hi.
Yeah, I was the member of government. I was speaking. I suddenly
Yeah,
had a network issue. Can I continue speaking?
yeah, you can continue speaking. I stopped my timer about 6 minutes.
Yeah, I have about 1 minute 15 seconds left. That is when I
Yeah, you're welcome to just continue from where you
stopped.
left off.
Can I continue?
Yeah, you're welcome to. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So, as I was saying, that the corruption will also be more visible to us because now they will have to sell their moral credits before acting in a morally questionable way. So, our paradigm, the moral
You're
credits
still
ensures that
breaking up.
both the
Sorry,
middle
sorry,
class,
sorry,
the
sorry. Can you please? Yeah. You were still breaking up for me. Is there a way that you could?
billionaires,
Um,
and the poor moral credits before
Sorry, could you please wait for a second there? Could you please go? Could you please just wait for 1 second
considered
because you're still breaking
moral
up for
reduce
me,
social acceptably credible way. Those
and she's cut again. Um,
excuse me, am I audible now?
yeah. Could you please just go back from where you started from the second time, the time I asked you to keep to start speaking again because yeah, your Wi-Fi was I couldn't track very well because you started cutting out quite a
Yeah.
lot.
Can am I better audible now? Can I speak?
You're better audible now. Yeah.
Yeah. So as I was saying that the billionaires and the wealthy people will be held more accountable since their corrupt actions will now be visible because well they'll have to sell real credits and the middle class, the billionaires and the poor people will all be at the same pedestal when acting in a morally questionable way. Also, moral credits do not reduce social acceptability since the credits can only be bought if a person conducts themselves in a morally creditable way, negating the LO's point. Also, those who have money already will also reduce their corruption and act in acceptable ways because they will lose their moral credits each time they do something wrong and it will be brought to the face of the people. So we strongly we strongly advocate for the we strongly advocate for the moral credit since it would benefit the middle class in our paradigm than in the opposition's paradigm where there will be no moral credits to hold anyone accountable. Thank you.
Thank you, member of government, member of opposition.
I just want to confirm if I'm audible.
Yeah, you're audible.
All right, thank you. Starting my speech in 3, 2, 1. Panel, understand all three houses of this debate today have not really debated what this motion is actually about. Understand, irregardless whether or not the middle class wants to sell the small credits, this small credits transaction will happen regardless anyways. This is true because of one reason of the very fact that the poor people always have the capacity to earn these small credits to be sold to the rich people. Why is this true then? I think three things, right? First, they have access to things like organ donation, like blood donation. Two, they have they can just do like moral acts like volunteering, and three, charity acts just like helping out with it without any monetary needs, right? Which means to say poor people have all of the access to earn all of these moral credits, and the people that's going to buy them are the rich. I think all of the other houses really tries to push that rich people wants to accumulate as many moral credit as possible. I don't see how that makes sense. The whole purpose of moral credits are so that you can make morally questionable things like, I don't know, murder, things like, a dodgy white white collar crimes and etc. Which means to say, when you have the capacity to buy as many moral credits as possible, why wouldn't you just commit as many crimes or immoral acts as possible? Because you won't be held accountable due to the fact that you can purchase moral credits. This alone brings down the case of PM and also MG, because MG tries to push the idea of societal accountability. Oh, the rich people wants to do good because people will then can easily hold them accountable. No, the whole idea of moral credit is just so that these people won't be held accountable. It's like a hall pass when you do a crime or do something that's immoral. So we don't really see how rich people will suddenly be held accountable. In fact, we think the otherwise will happen. Now then, what will we tell you in this debate today, right? I think we will win because of three things. First, we tell you how we protect the middle class as a whole. Two, how minorities can be protected during through economic means. And three, it is a safety net against economy and also emergency crises. Sure.
An actor motion. The motion is just simply this house as a middle class person would sell their credits. So like simply put, it's just a matter of why you individually as a middle class person would want to sell to someone.
Exactly. So the whole system will still exist. Just because I don't want to invest in Bitcoin doesn't mean the whole system doesn't exist anymore. Which means to say, panel, I don't know if any other houses realize this, the rich people will be buying all of the moral credits to commit further crimes and immoral acts because they have the capacity to do so. Going to my first point of argument then, right? Understand, historically speaking, the rich and the elite always have the ability to get out of crime or have the capacity to justify their means of immorality, right? It looks like huge companies or corporations lawyering up or like hiring a PR firm, or in a smaller scale, it looks like a rich parent donating a lot of money to a school and a kid acts like a brat, right? It looks like that panel, they have more opportunity in things like education, job through like connections and networks that these rich people have. What we're trying to tell you here is that middle class people are just structurally bound and chained to the class itself, unable to climb the social ladder because of how it's just structurally impossible for them to do so. On top of the fact, when moral credits are legalized, people can do even more immoral acts in order to get richer and get more money. They cannot argue that only the good people will become rich, because societally speaking, Steve Jobs, yeah, he donates a lot of money, but bro, the amount of harm that he did towards the world is bad. Things like Tesla, yeah, it's electric car, but you know how evil the mining and extraction is. What we're trying to tell you here is we can achieve the idea of the democratization of immorality, which means to say, irregardless of how rich you are, you can act immorality and you cannot be held accountable with it. The status quo, something that government have to argue is a world where only the elite will be doing all of the evil, only the elite will all be doing all of the immoral acts, and that's very bad because the middle class will be stuck in a structure where they're oppressed and discriminated. We cannot talk about the poor people because I think they are already fucked, right? Within the system itself, they are forced to sell their moral credits because they need a man. Sure.
Okay, so given that you're in a system, and regardless of whether or not I sell, the system will continue. Like, why do individually I not sell it? I mean, it seems like I get all the advantage if I individually sell it.
Because of the very fact that in the status quo, you cannot do immoral acts. If right now, let's say somehow accidentally kill someone, I cannot have the monetary capacity to hire a bunch of lawyers to help me out. However, comparatively, a rich brat can have the capacity to do so. Another example, a middle-class man who may be caught with smoking weed at that one time, gets caught by police, loses his whole life, loses his whole career. A rich kid can easily get out of that. That is why moral credits are very necessary, and it's very important for the middle class to at least have a way to opt out of this, certain point of times. Now, going to second point of argument, which I think is very important and something that's very unique, which is the idea of empowering minorities. Understand, minorities all around the world are oppressed by structural morality that was forced upon by the majority that may or may not be good at all. It looks like, for example, the Americans, back then oppressing Native Americans, African Americans, the LGBTQ, they are very damn oppressive, right? Or like all governments around that's oppressing minority people because of the idea of morality that the majority puts onto it. Which means to say, when the middle class have access to these moral credits, they have more leeway to do things that's immoral. It looks like panel, and this is very important, 1, LGBTQ rights, 2, lower caste people going into temples, 3, abortion, 4, wedlock baby, and 5, I think most importantly, refugees will have better access to shelter and like self-passage because they have the moral credit to exchange to do the quote-unquote immoral act of entering another country. And this is very important and will only exist on our side of the house panel, because on their side of the house they will sell all of their moral credits and they will not have enough to use it for themselves. And this is very important because it impacts them 3 things. 1, it protects them from oppression and also systematic discrimination. 2, they can access to things that they cannot otherwise. And 3, it saves lives, panel. And this is very important, right? Because we are made to believe that when you have the economic capacity, you will have better welfare, you will have better life. But for these people who do not have the capacity, just because of the morality that the society puts upon them, we don't think that is okay. We don't think that's principally right. The only principled thing to do is to allow them to do these kind of things by economic means. Understand? Whatever Gov wants to say, we think that the oppression and the systematic discrimination will still happen. We equalize and we democratize immorality, which ensures that even the middle class have access to it. Never been harder to oppose.
Thank you, Member of Opposition, Government Whip.
I'm so sorry. Just give me a minute and then I can start.
Yeah, no worries.
All right, just give me 5 seconds. I'll start, set a timer. Before I start, please do not vocalize any POS until I am done with my speech. Do not vocalize any. Um, I'll start in 3, 2, 1. Now, panel, this debate was never about whether morality should be pure or untouched or should be floating in some abstract ethical heaven. Rather, it's about whether morality should matter in the real world or whether we should continue pretending that power or wealth or influence don't already let some people bypass moral consequences entirely. Now, what I'm showing you here is first what this house is actually choosing between. Second, why the opposition's ethical panic misunderstands how morality already functions in the real world. And third, why the closing government decisively wins on incentives, accountability, as well as class impact. Now, what are we comparing? The opposition keeps asking, does selling moral credits uphold morality? But that question only works if there is a world where morality is currently intact, which does not exist. In the status quo, morality is already traded. It's informal, invisible, and selective. The rich can launder reputation through donations, PR campaigns, connections, and legal loopholes, while institutions quietly forgive the quote unquote valuable people. Meanwhile, moral conduct by ordinary people sits uselessly on an abstract scoreboard, which may be respected, but it's never powerful enough to actually create a difference. Now, this house isn't choosing between morality versus markets or the economy. We're choosing between an unregulated, morally hypocritical world against a regulated, morally accountable world, and that framing already puts the government ahead. Now, the opposition's core claim has been that once morality becomes tradable, it becomes about profit, appearances, and opportunism rather than virtue, which sounds emotionally persuasive but collapses under proper analysis. In our model, tradability does not replace morality, rather, it is a downstream of it. You don't buy moral credits by being rich, you earn them by repeated, sustained moral behavior, by civic engagement, ethical and moral conduct, as well as social engagement or contribution. Now, selling a moral credit does not erase the good act. It does not corrupt it. It only recognizes moral surplus that already exists. The opposition standard for real morality is that it must be incentive free and never rewarded materially, which does not have to be the ethical standard. It's more utopian moral romanticism. In the real world, we already reward morality. We give medals, scholarships, social status. Is that creating them and holding people accountable? So when the opposition says that this corrupts ethics, they are actually defending a system where ethics is rewarded arbitrarily or selectively rather than transparently, which is a moral privilege. Now, opposition spent a huge amount of time insisting that incentives automatically degrade morality and that if people are rewarded, they are no longer truly good. But this contradicts both logic and lived reality. The member of government showed this clearly by saying that when morality is tangible, people engage with it more seriously. They will think about their actions over time and they act ethically not once, but consistently, sustainably. An abstract moral scoreboard does nothing, whereas a system where moral conduct accumulates values changes behavior. Crucially, people become more careful about how they spend their moral credits and not just become reckless about it because credits, they're earning these credits, they're visible, and spending them puts them in a moral debt as well. The opposition claims that this creates a leeway to do immoral acts, but they ignore the fact that today's system already gives unlimited leeway to the powerful with zero cost and zero visibility. At least in our model, questionable acts are constrained by laws, scrutiny, as well as long term consequences. So, on incentives, the government clearly wins because we raise the baseline of moral behavior instead of hoping people will behave well for free. Now, the member of opposition and the DLO both argue that moral credits remove punishment and protect bad behavior, which is simply false. First, the credits do not eliminate accountability, rather, they restructure it. Legal, social, and reputational consequences still exist. What changes is that moral forgiveness becomes earned and regulated rather than informal. Secondly, the opposition keeps insisting that the rich will buy all the credits, which is a mischaracterization of the entire policy that the debate is based on. These credits are earned, not purchased. We never defend unlimited secondary markets. We're saying that if a secondary moral trade exists, it is capped, monitored, and people can be held accountable. Now, comparing this to the status quo where the wealthy people can already buy silence, leniency, and moral erasure with no ceilings, capping, or no records, the opposition cannot explain why these unregulated moral escape routes are better than our model of regulated moral accounting. So, on accountability, the government does not just win, the opposition never even meets the comparison. Talking about class impact, who is actually gaining power? The opposition repeatedly claims to protect the middle class and the poor, but let's be honest, what does the status quo offer them? To be good, be ethical, be civic minded, and in return, they receive nothing: no leverage, no protection, and no bargaining power. The closing government transforms morality into a usable asset and not just a decorative virtue. And for the middle class, this means moral morally demanded but materially ignored because they can afford to be forgiven informally. While the opposition says that they protect the middle class, what they actually protect is the middle class moral helplessness. The opposition also argues that trust depends on authenticity and not appearance, but this trust can collapse far more violently when moral systems are selective and opaque rather than transparent. Our system makes moral trade more visible, standardized, and contestable. The opposition's world prioritizes symbolic morality. It's clean in theory, however, in practice, not so much. The government's world prioritizes functional morality, which may be messy, but it's regulated and real. The opposition is fearing corruption, while we fear hypocrisy. We are fighting against hypocrisy. The opposition is protecting moral symbolism, while the government legitimizes morality by making it count socially, economically, as well as behaviorally. And that is why the closing government clearly takes this as. Thank you.
Thank you, GovWhip. Off whip.
Am I audible?
Loud and clear.
All right, perfect.
All right. Starting my speech in 3, 2, 1. Panel, let me clarify something that I heard from Upwhip just before she ended her speech. I wanted to POI her, but she gave no chance, so there's no engagement from CG. Okay, so the problem with what she mentioned earlier about how people would take morality more serious, I have two simple comments on that. One, it is basically the same idea that opening opposition is trying to posit, that more good things would happen. Then at that time and point, people still do good things, right? I think the impact is symmetrical in both houses, because at the end of the day, what is important with earning this how you earn these morality credits are from doing good stuff, right? Which looks like donation, helping people, right? Etc. So at the end of the day, what is important here isn't really the intention of doing good itself, right? But much rather the act itself being done, right? For example, someone is helped by your act of donating, right? So that outcome is the important part. It doesn't matter if my intention in the first place was to earn more moral credit score, or if I'm just doing it out of my own kindness, right? I'm such a kind person. It doesn't really matter, because as long as the poor person benefits from it, I believe it helps regardless, and both houses are symmetrical, right? So I just want to shut that idea from Upwhip, last minute pivot idea, right? So let's go back into house analysis, right? So what did side opening government brought to this table today, right? They proposed all the benefits coming from the idea of having to sell your moral credits for monetary value, but all this house, because we positing those moral credits to yourself in the first place, right? I'll follow up on that later, right? I'll finish the long cross later, right? Secondly, vertically, why we also win is because I think the opening opposition case, it was purely a negative case, right? They just said how bad the world will look like in terms of when middle class people start selling off their moral credit score, yada yada, right? Rich people will do more bad stuff. Poor people would be even more marginalized. All these things, right? All the negative harms that would occur, right? I think this negative case can't win the first place in this room, because it gives you no unique perspective as to why we need to support this system in the first place, right? Why this system is made to help the middle class have upward mobility, right? We are the only house that provides to you how that upward mobility works, or even how that helps you mitigate certain harms in your life, right? So thirdly, engaging on the whole CG case, I think CG has the weakest case out of all houses, because they just come in, step in and say, oh, this incentivizes people to do good anyways, right? Let me tell you something very simple. This is the most easy to clash out, right? Because we also tell you why people have incentive to do good anyways for the moral credit in the first place, because we already told you all these moral credits can hold great value to middle class people, especially people that might not fit the social norm or the legal norm itself, right? So I think incentive wise, it looks symmetrical on both houses, because poor people would still want to do more moral stuff to get more moral credit score to sell it to rich people, right? Rich people doesn't care anyways, because they can always buy more moral credit scores, and middle class people have different benefits, right? Which side CG says monetary benefits, and we say we have unique benefits like safety net and helping minority groups to actually achieve their dreams, right? So I think in terms of the vertical clash between not vertical, horizontal clash between CG and CO, CG already loses out directly, right? Because we can prove the same thing as well. So there's no unique impact coming from CG, right? So going back to OG and why we win this debate fully, right? It's simple, because we provide to you two very unique substantives to tell you that one, it gives people safety net, right? For example, if you accidentally ruin a system or project in your company and they might want to sue you for it, right? You have a get out of jail card free, even though you have worked your whole life very loyal to the company, they might still flip you over, because at the end of the day, companies are profit driven, right? So in this case where you meet a hardship in life, right? For example, you accidentally hit someone, a pedestrian walking through a road. It isn't accidental. There are accidental things that happen in life or things that are beyond your control, right? A lot of times these things happen. It can ruin someone's life very easily, right? Because people have this discrimination, ostracization of people that are criminals, right? So therefore, this gives them a get out of jail card free and let them continue to live their peaceful middle class life, right? Okay, POI before 6.
Okay, first thing first. If that is the case, then isn't necessary that first say you keep like your ability to get out of jail free card low, because it's just for like rare accidents. After all, if I'm walking with like a bunch of them, it now starts seems to everybody around me signals to me like
it's too long of a BOI, but okay, I understand what you're trying to get at, right? No, I don't think that will happen regardless, because how the guideline and the target of a good act in terms of getting credit scores would be based on the government, because as shown in the info slide, who manages the printing or creation of this credit scores is managed by the government, right? So I think in both houses, it will look pretty much the same, right? You just have to work your way to earn the same thing. We're just talking about the outcome of it, how you decide to use that credit score, right? So you're trying to say that you use it for money, whereas we say people have different circumstances that need help, right? And most importantly, lastly, we talked about the whole idea of protecting minorities, right? And I think this is the most impactful, because in current status quo, there's nothing to help these minorities in society, right? For example, like LGBTQ people might be illegal to get married in certain countries, right? Any Islamic countries, even in Asia, only 2 countries legalize same-sex marriage, right? Which in this case, you can use your social credit score to get out of jail free, to marry whoever you want to marry, right? Or this applies to other things like abortion rights in states that do not allow those things, right? This looks like things like refugees from war-torn countries trying to escape into another country and getting rejected just because they say you're trying to illegally immigrate into their country, right? Whereas your real identity is a refugee that needs help because your country is war-torn. Okay, so yeah, that protects the minority. Thank you very much. We have the unique substantive. We win all houses.
Thank you, Opwith. We've through the closing ceremony, or during the closing ceremony, I believe. Really good round, guys. And yeah, congratulations and thank you. Judges, please stay.
Or spectators, kindly clear out. Yeah, judges will have the deliberations. Chair, we will just go ahead and yeah, once everybody is cleared out, please let me know.
Yeah.